I just wanted to come in and show my pride and my confidence how good I'm feeling this week. So so hey, shout out to I got on all my commanders gear. I'm telling you, I'm feeling really excited. Hey, shout out to the commanders for pulling out all the last second W's, and shout out to JD5 for what we about to do to Detroit. No offense to anybody in the comments if you're from Detroit. Hey, it is what it is. Hey, I'm representing. I haven't had a chance to gloat on my team in a minute. So I wanted to take this opportunity to say, finally, we aren't a dumpster fire. And it's actually a valuable lesson that we can learn from the Washington Commanders in relation to what's going on in Thornton Township in the village of Dalton. In order to make a change, you have to cut the head of the snake off. Our team was some trash. We had to get the owner out because he was trash. And what do you know? You get rid of the cancer, and everything starts to turn around. So hey, hopefully we can get that lesson. Hopefully that same concept will happen for the folks in the village of Thornton, the village of Dalton in the Thornton Township. But I wanted to just get my excitement out of the way before we dive into this video. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I actually had a chance to catch out some of it. I was on a shout out to my guy Hannibal is Hungry. I saw some of it on his live. I saw Keith Price up there doing this thing. Someone did send me the lawsuit that was recently filed. We'll probably dive into that tomorrow. It's just so much stuff going on, and I don't even cover the events live, but it's so much stuff going on. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. And a round of applause to the first comment of the day early because I was late. Hey, shout out to you for dropping that comment, everybody in the chat. So we are going to talk about an interview that was done. It was one of the first things that someone sent me, and I thought it was interesting. Now, I will tell you, y'all know I generally don't like to watch long videos all the way through. So I do have notes where I went through the timestamps. 1 minute 40 mark, 3 minute 50, 6 minute 30, 7 minute 15 seconds. But as I was going through the timestamps, it was all pertinent and or relevant to some stage of either criminal or civil litigation. So I was like, this is one that. Hey, dog, what are you doing? This is one that we're gonna let play all the way through. Is about 32 minutes. Of course, I'm gonna stop in between, but I'm gonna try not to be too ridiculous. Before we dive in, hey, licensed attorney, not your attorney, not legal or financial advice, just my opinion and takes on topics and infotainment purposes. Always find a professional in your area, preferably one who knows what they're doing. And if you get some value out of the content, like, share, subscribe, comment. They got this new feature where you can like do a request for super chats. Like my goal is 3 or 30, and that's a feature I'm never going to use because hey, I'm appreciative of people who support the channel and donate through super chat and join memberships. But hey, you could do it under your own volition. The only thing I ask is if you're in here, definitely hit a like button for the algorithm so this content can get out to more people. Now, before we dive into this video, we got to think of it from two parts. First, I always got to give the disclaimer. There were some things said in this that were great from a legal standpoint if you are representing the state or the attorney for Miss Dukes. There are some points to attack if you are the attorney for the opposing side. So if someone was the attorney for the alleged defendant in this matter, or who would purportedly be the defendant, Mr. Holmes, they have some things in here that are points to attack. I'm just going to give out the information. Don't jump on me in the comments, talk about I'm on their side. Like, yo, if you don't want an attorney topic who's looking at it from both sides, you probably should go to another channel. So, hey, I'm going to give it from both sides. I'm going to give the perspective from both sides. It's definitely more favorable to one side than another. but I'm gonna just go through it so y'all can see what are the points that are gonna come up. So the very first thing is, if you do an interview, that interview will be admissible as evidence. It can come in as evidence, as a public statement that you made. Everyone can see that it is clearly you answering the question. So yes, something that you say in a public forum during the interview that's recorded can be admitted as evidence. It can find its way in the court to prove or disprove something. That's point number one. Point number two is, I think it was a really good interview, but there were some questions that I thought of. I think of everything, even though I'm not on the defense side, I think of everything from the perspective of a defense attorney first, because that was just what I did first when I was cutting my teeth, getting my trial experience. So let's go ahead and dive into it. We about to jump in. All right. And hold on, wait, before we dive in, hey, shout out to NBC Chicago. Hey, this sister right here, she stayed doing her job. She stayed on her grind. Shout out to her. Despite tough guy antics from Kamal Woods, she does her job, and as it relates to keeping the public informed. Hey, excuse me. Shout out to everybody in the chat as well. Again, round of applause for y'all before we dive into this video. Again, I'm taking pauses through this. I'm telling y'all now, I'm taking pauses through it to talk about things as they come up. Let's get it.
23, we got a tip about a suburban mayor. That's how our deep dive into Dalton all began. We were told that Mayor Tiffany Henyard had taken a taxpayer-funded trip to Las Vegas and that her assistant had accused a village trustee of assaulting her during that trip. Now, the tipster told us that when the mayor's assistant tried to get help from Henyard, the woman that she trusted and looked up to, she ended up getting fired a few months later. Now, that woman has since filed a civil lawsuit naming Tiffany Henyard, Andrew Holmes, the village of Dalton, and Thornton Township all as defendants. Andrew Holmes has not been criminally charged and has not responded to our numerous requests for comment about this lawsuit. Tiffany Henyard has denied all the allegations made against her. The allegations and the accusations you are about to hear are reflected in police reports we obtained in a joint lawsuit filed by the alleged victim and a Dalton police officer. Fenia, how are you doing today?
That's kind of hard to even answer. It's up and down. It's kind of like that every single day. I can't say this past weekend I have been overly blessed for my child to where that has been having me feel elated and just overjoyed. So I will just go that route and say that I'm blessed. I can say that.
I want to go back a little bit and talk about Tiffany Henyard. She's your old boss. Is that correct?
Yes. I was her assistant. I actually originally met her when I was a teen, and she had a dance group, and I was in it, and we even performed at Lincoln and stuff. And I knew her since then, and she was a spunky girl, like not the person that you guys see today. Like, she was really actually cool. She was somebody that you really could seriously look up to. And that's where I kind of got it from. Like, when I get older, I want to be involved with kids like this too. Like, this is cool. Like, this is nice. Like, that is somebody that you have somebody that's in your corner, that's, coaching you and growing and just being there for you. And that's, I kind of miss that about her.
Did you look up to her like a big sister?
Absolutely. If we was around at that time, she would always call me her mini-me, which I actually despise now. And please never ever call me that again. But yeah, I'm not even allowing her. Like, she really tried to actually lift me up. Like, she tried to give me opportunities to be able to go do different things. She used to always push, like, you might take my seat as a mayor. You might be next. I'm going to elevate. I want you to elevate behind me. So.
All right, real talk. I thought that was, now there's a couple tags I have in my notes. But one, the first thing that I didn't know, because I just go through the news stories and the lawsuits, I didn't know the extent of the prior relationship that her and Tiffany Henyard had. She knew Tiffany Henyard since she was 16. She looked at her as a sister, which actually makes these allegations more egregious. Because damn, if you're not going to look out for it, you should generally always do the right thing. But damn, if you're not going to look out for somebody, god damn, like that's kind of ridiculous. The other thing that I thought was interesting is something that I don't know if you all caught this, but this is weird. I've never said this, and I had attorneys who I hired. I had interns who I hired. I thought this was odd, and this says a lot about Tiffany Henry. I don't know if you all caught this, but she said a little after the 140, around the 2-minute mark, she says that she had a relationship with Tiffany Henry, and Tiffany Henry said the one thing she said is, "Hey, you can be the next mayor. I want you to elevate behind me." To me, I think that's a big ass red flag, and it tells a lot about a person. Most people I had, and I had mentors who've sat in some high positions. The words that they normally utter is, "Hey, I want my interns or the people I rock with to do better than me." I have never once, and I had a lot of mentors, I've never once had a mentor as an intern or anything, even if it's somebody just around the way, say, like, "Yo, I want you to just come up behind me." Like, no, it's always, "I want you to do better than what I'm doing." That's actually interesting. Before we keep going in this video, hey, a round of applause to the new channel member. I appreciate you. Hey, this is one of the family members for real, official co-counsel. A round of applause to Kenneth Dawkins. I appreciate you, family. I mean that definitely. I'm appreciative of it. Shout out to all the channel members, but I wanted to show you some love as a new channel member. All right, so let's go ahead, jump back into the video. The next mark we're going to get to that's important is going to be the 3-minute and 50-second mark.
So I definitely looked up to her.
Back in May of 2023, Fenia Dukes says she learned about a business trip being planned to Las Vegas. The mayor was taking a group of people there to attend a convention. It was happening around the same time as Fenia's birthday. So she says she had never been to Vegas before and told the mayor she'd like to go. Fenia ends up attending that trip along with Dalton police officer Byron Miles, who at the time was part of the mayor's security detail. Also on that trip, Andrew Holmes, who is an elected Dalton trustee and a well-known community activist. Fenia says she knew Andrew very well and that she felt safe around him. At the time, she says she even referred to him as Uncle Drew.
When she brought him into the campaign, then he became Uncle Drew, and it was a cool, like, we've been places, we've been in cars and places by ourselves, and he's never met.
All right, so her and Andrew Holmes, she felt safe around him, which was expressly said by the reporter. She knew him. It's something that's kind of contradictory, but we'll talk about it.
A move at me, a pass me, or anything. So that's always also made me feel like I'm safe around him.
On the last day of the trip, Fenia says they all went out to dinner. After dinner, she wanted to go out for drinks. She says trustee Andrew Holmes came along with her.
That was a safety beacon. Like, that's somebody that if he's with us, you're not going to mess with us. So I felt confident enough that leaving the restaurant and then going to go hang with him after the restaurant, that I was going to be okay.
To go to the strip.
Yeah, and that
You felt safe with it?
Yeah. So I told him verbally my room number, and I was like, it's 2145. And he was like, okay. So he came and I knocked on my door. He didn't come in. I left out, and then we walked out into the strip. When we walked out, the first thing we did, we were staying at Planet Hollywood. When we walked out, we went to Walgreens, and if we was looking to get some alcohol. And at first we didn't know they had the heavy alcohol behind the counter at first. So we were just about to get some little cans of whatever, like little malt liquor things, whatever, until we went to go check out, and we seen it. So then we ended up getting like, I think Hennessy, it was Hennessy, 50 Hennessy. And then went next door, and they had a daiquiri place. It's like one of those places that you lift up and it's just open. And I went to go get a chaser. So we go, and then there's another hotel that has a small little fountain, not the Bellagio fountain, but it's a smaller fountain. We sat out there. And earlier through the trip, I did go to the dispensary, and I ended up getting a couple of pre-roll joints. And so we sat there and we smoked, and we were talking about the people walking past, laughing here and high. So now we end up walking down the strip. We're passing the I forgot what hotel it is that looks like New York. Then we get to the Mandalay, which is like the little castles and stuff, and we hear a concert. So we walk in there, we sit down in there, and we're watching the concert and stuff like that. We're talking about the people in there. Then we leave the concert and walk right back to the same fountain that we originally started at, and that's my little last memory until I wake up in his room. So I can't remember getting up from that fountain, walking into the hotel, getting into the room, who even helped did I even walk myself? Was I like, I can't remember any of that. My next memory is literally him over me, waking me up, saying, "Baby girl, you wake up," and I'm just jumping up. And now this is not the face that I'm expecting to see because I have my own room. So you're waking me up. I'm confused on why I'm here.
Do you think you blacked out?
I knew for sure waking up that I was completely disoriented. Like I knew that me not knowing how I went from the fountain and I'm waking up here, I knew that immediately. That was how. Like it was like a blink, and now I'm hearing it like that. I knew immediately I'm discombobulated.
Whose room did you wake up in?
Andrew Holmes' room.
Whose bed did you wake up
Andrew
in?
Holmes' bed.
In the civil lawsuit.
All right, now real quick, let's talk about this because this was like the very first thing that jumped out to me in this entire conversation. Objective, objective. In any trial, if this were to be an actual criminal case, the very first thing that they are going to attack is exactly what she said. She felt comfortable with him, and she talked about getting alcohol and smoking marijuana. If now, it's going to be a couple of ways that this could go. Everybody has been calling for Andrew Holmes to deny the allegations or say this didn't happen. And for him, it was actually probably the smartest thing that he could do not to say anything, because later what happened, audio came out that sounds very, very consistent with what's being said here and what's in the civil complaint. So had he came out and made a statement, hey, nothing like that happened, I didn't even see her, she wasn't in my room, he would have been screwed once the audio came out to confirm everything that's being said now and in the lawsuit. But the problem is the marijuana uses. And I know y'all like, hey, it's just marijuana. Everybody smokes marijuana. But now you're going to give the defense the opportunity to say, well, you felt comfortable with him, or you just having a good time. Was it consensual? That's going to be argument number one. Argument number two, and it's a very small thing that she says later in this video that most people won't catch that jumped out. Argument number two is you were under the influence of alcohol and marijuana, and you don't remember anything. You just remember him waking up. So they're going to try to question the truthfulness, the veracity of her saying that she knew she was actually SA'd, that she was actually assaulted. Now, I know y'all thinking like, I know exactly what y'all saying because it's the first thought you should have. No, if you're under the influence, you won't be able to give consent, so an assault can't happen, which is actually true. But when you do an interview, there's good things that come out, there's bad things that come out. So what I want y'all to do, let me see. I'm trying to see, is at the 7:15 mark, which you talk about drinking and smoking. I'm trying to. Just remember, again, the thing that they're going to challenge is, again, was it consensual? Or if they don't go down that route, they're going to say, well, how don't you were under the influence of alcohol and narcotics? You could have just passed out and nothing happened. How do you know that? And later on, around the 9:20 mark, no, around the 7:15 mark, we're about to get to it now. She talks about how she drinks and how she smokes, which is a consistent pattern. What I was looking for in this story, if she drinks and smokes, this is are her normal vices, which, hey, we all got vices. If these are her normal vices, it would be odd to me that she passed out from drinking, sharing a fifth of Hennessy and smoking a little bit of weed. I just think that that would be odd, but I didn't hear anything in the story up until this point that talks about whether something that was purchased, did she lose her eyes off of it? Because if you passed out, if you always drink and smoke and you drink and smoke and you pass out more than normal, my initial thought is going to be, well, what would cause you to pass out if these are your normal vices? You should be able to hang in there with the best of them. Well, hey, was something slipped into your drink? I didn't hear anything in the story that alluded to that or accounted for the opportunity of that happening. Now, it could be something that happened prior to these events taking place earlier in the day, but just remember she's talking about her vices. She was drinking, she was smoking. This is where the defense is going to go. Now, so far, I think it's more good than bad. She confirmed that everybody called him Unc. We heard the audio that he was referred to as Unc by Officer Miles. Hey, that's a big plus. The biggest thing is that this is actually out there, and any jury that's going to be convened, especially for the civil lawsuit, is going to hear this and they're going to have their mind made up. The jury has already been tainted, probably a little bit in her favor, probably a lot of bit in her favor. So that's definitely a plus. Let me check out some of these comments before we jump into the video. That's exactly what you thought. Well, hey, I'm telling you, these are just normal thoughts that everyday people are going to have when you're just listening to something. All right, let's see. I thought the SA case was closed, and the new case deals with cyber exploitation, dissemination of obscene material, or something like that. And they'll talk about that. We'll get into that. And let's go ahead and jump back in the video. But how can I put this? Notes that she relatively sounds very positive about what happened, although she has no recollection of it. And of course, she was under the influence. Those are her own words, and you're going to hear her talk about how she likes to smoke and drink. It is what it is. But this is what any counsel would be pointing out.
Officer Byron Miles says Andrew Holmes called him from the hotel room. Officer Miles claims Andrew made reference to engaging in sexual activities with Fenia, and it was also unclear whether she did or could consent.
I think that point right there, that the statement made by Officer Miles is a statement that I think personally is favorable to Andrew Holmes. The officer actually recorded the conversation. Let me put it up this way. The officer actually recorded the conversation, but he really just listened. He didn't ask any questions. So I think that statement is a statement that's probably more favorable to Andrew Holmes and his side as opposed to her side, because Officer Miles is saying that I heard the audio, I recorded it, but I don't know. I don't know if she could have gave consent. If she couldn't, it seemed a little sketch, but I couldn't call it one way or the other. So that's how I view that statement right there. Yeah, I had to put that up. Hey, appreciate you for tuning in. Y'all make sure y'all go check out the homie AA Legal Focus. Great channel, great content related to the legal nuances of some very interesting cases. And hey, shout out to you. Somebody told me I should put it up on the wall so it looked like I know what I'm talking about. He's like, it even look like you know what you talk about. All right, let's dive back into this interview.
He says he began recording their conversation. So the lawsuit says that Andrew transitioned from a phone call to FaceTime, then panned the camera to private areas of Fenia's body.
Which is stupid.
At times, moving or removing articles of clothing.
This is true. It's just
Fenia says when she woke up in Andrew's bed, they were both fully dressed, and that she immediately began looking for her belongings. But she recalls that something did not feel right.
Then while I'm looking around now, I'm also standing up on my feet. I'm really feeling like I've never felt this way before. Like this you feel
disoriented.
Yeah, I feel disoriented, discombobulated, all of that. Like it was way past just a hangover. It was way past all that. I felt like I was on 1,000 elevators. Like I felt like my body would just keep blowing up. That's how I just kept feeling. Like I have no explanation of why I feel like this. Because again, I drink and I smoke. That's regular. So
I drink, I smoke. That's going to be favorable to the opposite side. Because the question is, what I'm not hearing in this narrative is, it's not needed, but it helps. When you hear a story, I don't care if it's your kids coming to you telling you a lie about something that did or didn't happen at school. The pieces have to fall into play and make sense. If you're testifying that, hey, I drink, I smoke, that's what I do, and in this instance you drank or smoked and you passed out completely, unlike any other time, what the piece of the story that is missing for me is, okay, when you bought the fifth, when you smoked the weed, who you got it from the dispensary? Did you give it to him? You just got it to the dispensary? It could have been a stronger strain. Was there an opportunity where the alcohol and the drugs were in his possession and out of your possession? Because you're trying to find what is the reason for you passing out if you smoke and drink all the time. What it likely is, I'm gonna just be honest. Hey, dispensary weed hit different. That pharmaceutical grade marijuana, what I hear, I can't say that I partake, but from what I hear is that hit different. So it might have been a stronger strain which led to this, but it's kind of a gray area. When we hear a story that's being presented, we want to hear all of the pieces kind of put into place. So tell me what you got at the dispensary. If you went to the dispensary, tell me what you got. Normally I don't smoke medical grade marijuana. I just get my marijuana from a plant I grow in the backyard, so it's really not that strong. But then give us a little bit more. But she already said that she smokes and drinks. That's something that's going to be attacked. Again, even though I'm pointing out the things that aren't in her favor, I think the overall story is very consistent with what was alleged in the civil complaint, what's being stated now, and what we heard in the audio recording. It all seems consistent, which also does give her some credibility.
Me drinking like how I drunk, that wasn't, and then I even finished the drink. Like, so I know, like, I wasn't just full out, just blacked out, and it's just the first time that I ever drank before. So I immediately knew like something was wrong. But again, at the time frame of what it was, I wasn't trying to question it, because now I got to make sure that I make it back to this plane.
Fenia says they rushed to the airport to catch their flight back home. All the while, Fenia says she was trying to recall what happened and why her body felt different.
How do you?
I agree, and I just want to say this before we dive in. Listen to this interview. Shout out to you, because that is a great comment. 100% right. I've investigated, prosecuted, represented people who've been charged or victims of these type of crimes. I've seen it all in this particular area. Generally, when you are out in a place that's not home with strangers, you want to make sure you have as clear as head as possible. Especially, hey, equal opportunity, ladies, but especially to you. This applies to you. Whatever guy is your friend, you could think a guy's the greatest person in the world. You could think an individual is the greatest person in the world. People who are criminals are opportunistic, and they push boundaries once they see that there's a boundary to be pushed. So generally, if you're out and about, if you're with somebody, if you're not at home, if you're not with like your significant other, you should always keep your head on the swivel, because something like this, one, it happens more common than we would like, than it should, and then most people think. But criminals are very opportunistic, and don't allow them the opportunity. Like, I'm a guy, and even if I go to a club, I'm not, if I'm out of the club, I haven't been to the club for years, but if I'm out of the club and I got a drink and I'm drinking and I put my drink down and go to the dance floor, I'm a guy, and I'm not coming back and drinking that drink. Nah, if anything, I'm gonna drink it all when I get it, and that's a wrap. Because there are heinous stories out there that happen to both men and women. So I just wanted to say that before we jump back into this video.
How can you really prove this if you don't remember this? But you know what your body feels. You weren't feeling that way before you woke up into his room. When y'all were walking in all up and down the strip, you were fine. How you're feeling, my area and
nice.
what that felt like, no ma'am. So and it was like, it was more, and I went on my period. It was at the end of my period, so I was still spotting so that. So I definitely know I didn't go down there for that. And so I didn't have any cramps, but what I felt, and I'm like, I don't usually cramp after the fact. So it's just like I was trying to debunk. So I'm like, that man would do nothing. So you have to find, this cannot be it. Like, and then it's also just like, this really can't be it. Like, that was also a denial for me. Like, this, because coming out, like look at my life now. Like, this is something I never wanted to be sitting in front of you talking to you about this.
And I'm gonna tell y'all, just from looking at her body language, how she's telling this story, and I've had hundreds, if not thousands, of hours on body language and signs of people being truthful and disingenuous, training on polygraphs and how to circumvent polygraphs. I will tell you, just from observing her body language, she seems very sincere in her story, very believable. The look that she has, the look in her eyes, the look in her face as she describe and explain things is I, I can feel the emotion and the hurt when she just explaining this story. So she would be a great witness to tell this story, just because you can hear the sincerity and what I believe is the truthfulness in her story. I mean, that's just a I mean, you could just look at her face in that image, and people typically have cues. Normally, when you do an interview, and I said this before on the channel, you wouldn't do it in this case. But normally, if you're doing an interview, I even do it to my kids when I ask them stuff. I'll ask them a question that they'll have to think about, but they have no reason to lie. And the reason I always start out by asking that question because I want to see what your natural physiological cues are for truthfulness. Hey, the one I always ask if it was like an interview, what was your favorite? Who was your favorite teacher? What was your favorite subject in elementary school, and who was your favorite teacher? Nobody's ever going to lie about that question, but they're going to be like, They're going to go through all the physiological cues that they would go through if they're trying to recall truthful information because you're trying to establish some type of baseline. But very, very believable. Would be a great witness. I can see the look. I've been trained on dealing with victims of this who are communicative, who can't talk, and you have to give them a doll when you're doing an interview to try to very consistent with what I've seen from victims just in doing interviews. And I think that's a good point. That's a great point. Risky behavior does not negate the lack of consent. 100% accurate.
That's ever. This is not the type of narrative I've ever wanted all my life. So now it is. So that was the denial. Like if I come out saying this, that's strong. And then because I can't remember anything, what if I could have been wrong? But that's on my mind just telling me like just you have to find some other way. But my body and how it felt.
Fenia says she returned to work and received a text message from.
And that's fair. Like, yeah, we all adults on this channel. Okay. If you dozed up and woke up and fellas, you unloaded a couple of rounds out of your firearm. I don't care if you were fully dressed and everything was cleaned up. You're gonna know that you're gonna know that something is off. So I think that's a very consistent thing. You know your body better than anybody else. So I think that's a very no issues with that statement because I think that statement is 100% accurate, and I think she's being genuine as she makes it.
From Officer Byron Miles.
I'm at work and I get a text message and it's from Officer Miles and he said, "Are you okay?" And now I'm just like thinking that this man is reading my mind because again, I didn't say anything to anybody. So I'm like,
I'll tell y'all the other thing too is, and this isn't really a legal thing, but Officer Miles is like the most annoying, the most helpful but unhelpful person I've ever seen in my life. Like I don't know, like she's at work, so they're already, because she's at work. So from what I read in the civil complaint and her telling this story, he had this communication with her after they were back because this happened near the last day when they were getting ready to leave or something like that, the day of. But I don't know. It's just so many questions I have for Officer Miles. One, why does Andrew Holmes feel comfortable enough with you to tell you this information? That's just weird. Okay. And I mean, there's a first time for everything, but it's just odd. I would like to ask questions as it relates to cross-examining him just on the scope of their relationship. That's one. Point number two, you had the wherewithal to record it. So he's clearly a relatively observant guy. Now, I don't know if he recorded everything, but he just thought this one was odd. But you had the wherewithal to record it. But in the audio recording that I heard, if we're assuming that, again, that audio recording sound consistent with this, if you're gonna record it, great. But as an officer, someone who should have some training in doing investigations, you should have asked a few probative questions to be able to get more granularity, more understanding of what went on. I don't think that I think that you could have done it in a way that was, it was clandestine in nature. They wouldn't have known, like, hey, why are you asking all these questions? If he's calling you to brag, you hear it, you start to record it. Once you start recording it, he clearly wants to talk. I think that was a prime opportunity as an officer, somebody who probably done some investigations before. You should have just asked some open-ended questions to get him talking, to have a little bit more substance. You recorded the conversation for a reason. You might as well just went the full step. This guy was already in the mood to talk. You should have just asked some more probing questions. That's what I think about it. But I don't know. It's a little that relationship is a little weird and definitely needs to be explored. That's that's fair, but like I don't know. Like, I don't know. The fact that I don't know. You waking up from a crazy night, that's fair. I get that. And that's probably the case. Hey, you in Vegas, it is what it is. Everybody gonna do what they want to do. But you had the wherewithal to record it. You could have just pushed the envelope a little bit farther. Cause once he called you, then said go on FaceTime, that was your best opportunity to get any information you wanted. Cause he was talkative, braggadocious, and that's when people are their most stupid, honestly. All right, let's go ahead and jump back into this video.
I'm like, no, I'm cool. What do you mean? He said, are you sure? And I'm, yeah, now you scared me. Why are you asking me? Are you just coming out of nowhere asking me, am I okay? Are you sure? He's like, don't take this weird. I know it's gonna sound crazy, but I think you should go to a doctor. Now again, I'm already fighting it in my head. And if you're saying this and I have no idea, I can't even remember anything, and I feel like I'm only finding it in my head, and you're telling me you feel like I need to go to the doctor, I immediately went. I immediately told William Moore, because I was working. I was at Dalton Park, working behind the counter, and I told him I need to go. Now I gotta go to the hospital. He's like, are you okay? I said, I just need to go. So
The other thing that needs to be explored, I know y'all gonna hate me in the comments for this. Oh man, y'all gonna hate me for this, but this is a valid argument. All right, before I get to that comment, I'm gonna read those comments. But another thing that would need to be explored, if I'm an attorney in this case, I need to know from both sides. If I'm representing her or Holmes, it doesn't make a difference. I need to know the extent and the nature of the relationship between her and Officer Miles. Now I know y'all thinking, well, because think about it. Okay, you recorded this for a reason. All right, so you recorded this for a reason. Then after you recorded it, when you were back home, he called you and told you, "Hey, this is gonna sound weird. You should do this." I need to know the nature of everyone's relationships, the background, because an argument that is going to be made, if it's an attorney who is worth their salt, because they have to cultivate arguments, is and hey, I'm not saying this happened, y'all. I'm just letting y'all know what the argument is going to be made. Was this an effort between her and Officer Miles to get a payout for conduct that allegedly occurred in Vegas? I know y'all gonna hate me in the comments. I'm not giving anybody advice. If anything, I'm giving her attorney gems like, yo, you got to be ready to defend this shit because this is what they're gonna come with. So this is all in how you look at it. But I think that's going to be a very interesting dynamic, a very unique road to go down. And I'm gonna just be honest. That happens. Okay, I'm not saying it happened in this case, but that is not beyond the realm of possibility for a gentleman and a woman to cultivate a scheme. It's going to be something that's going to be brought up. I think it's an actual fair point. It's something that her attorneys is going to have to be prepared to defend. They're going to want to dive into the nature of their relationship. How long have you known each other? Okay, he called you. He was on Henyard's detail. How do you have his cell phone number? when was the first time you met? Because I feel fairly confident that would be a road that counsel for the defendant would go down in a criminal trial. It's just it is what it is. But that's uh my thought. I think that'll be fair. Yeah, that's the law in most places. That's the law in most places. Do most people do it? No. That's fair. That's a fair point, and that could actually be the case. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Most states have that. Uh and I mean he's an officer of the law. If it honestly, like had he asked, well, he was outside of his jurisdiction, so he had no law enforcement authority unless he was deputized by the US Marshals, which I seriously doubt. But had he asked the right question, he himself could, during a recorded conversation, he could have asked the right questions to potentially establish probable cause on that recording or alleged recording. I agree. I heard the call. The call seemed genuine. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying that this is what, when you go to trial and somebody life on the line, somebody like, you don't think they're gonna do everything they can to drag anybody and everybody through the mud in defense of their client. So if you don't think an attorney is going to say, hey, what's the nature of the relationship between you and Officer Miles? Because this could be some collusion. I think that's it's going to be an argument. You're gonna have the consent argument, you're gonna have the collusion argument. It's gonna be a few avenues that they can go down. Now, again, I do believe that that phone call was it seemed genuine. I actually heard the audio on that call, but trust me, I've been doing this a long time. I've seen a lot of people cry and put on some great fucking shows in court, in audio. So it is what it is. Overall, I think this is much more advantageous for her because it puts the story out there and this message is already being conveyed to the jury. And I think this interview is actually pointing out all the points that her defense team that the prosecutors, if they move forward criminally on this, should be prepared to get because that these are the avenues that they're going to go down. That's actually a good question too. His age and experience, how long he been on the force. The prior to him being on the mayor's detail, what type of criminal incidents did he primarily work? They have some officers who they put on robbery, homicide. They have some officers they put on theft. They have some officers they put on only assault crimes. So that's actually a good question. Great point to delve into, and that is something that's going to be delved into. His experience as an officer. No, ma'am. All right. I love you. Bye. Huh? Nah, I already went there earlier, actually. Oh no, I thought you had some in there. All right. Later. All right. So, all right, where was that? But I think that's a fair point. That's the nature of this game. Whatever skeletons in your closet, whatever chink in the armor, that shit is going to get attacked. And, this is why uncles and predators get away with these crimes because people are trying to defend and make excuses. I mean, that's the attorney's job. It is not a personal thing. Somebody gonna try to defend him. Somebody gonna argue on her behalf. The bottom line is who has the best facts to support their case that a jury will believe. That's just what it is. I mean, it is what it is. Everybody's entitled to representation. That's just the nature of it. So you can't take it personal. I didn't take it personal when I represented uh, a person uh, who was the founder of the the Black Hebrews or something like that, and he was charged with a heinous crime. And I didn't take it personal when I put people who were charged with crimes in custody and prosecuted them and investigated them. That's just the nature of what it is. That's fair. And she does bring up a point about some questions. Yeah, that's why nobody liked these attorneys. I agree. When I was doing defense work, my mother was like, you need to find something else to do." Nobody likes the guy who represents someone charged with the crime. That's just what it is. You're 100% right.
I went, but then again, walking to the hospital, now I'm like, but if I do this, they're gonna pull out, they're gonna bring police, they're gonna do the rape kit. And what if I'm wrong? Like my mind is just saying, like, this is an elected official. It's not like just Johnny down the street. This is a big person. And then he's an advocate and all this stuff. Like this is a major person.
That's 100% fair. Everybody like to think, oh, if something happened to me, I would run and tell immediately. Most people wouldn't. Most people, it take years. Most people go their whole lives and don't say shit when stuff like this happens. So how she's feeling right now about what's going to be done, she's actually concerned about everybody else but herself in this point. That's actually a common reaction to persons who are victims of these types of crimes.
You can't remember anything. You know what your body feels, but you literally have no words or evidence to say, like, this happened to me. Besides, I can't remember anything. Besides, I blame something. Besides, this was the last person that I was with. And now I feel like this since I was with the last person that I was with. So, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
Lord. Oh, God. I'm okay. You could do it. You could do it. You could do it. You could do it.
Well, at the hospital, Fenia says she got an STD test, but she did not ask for a rape kit. May I ask you this, and this is...
Y'all already know. If this is how you felt, why didn't you get a rape kit test? I don't think that's as big of a deal as the question seems when it's going to be asked, because it actually makes sense. A lot of people who are victim of these crimes, the first thing that they want to do is not go out and tell everybody and broadcast it to the world and investigate it. The very first thing that most people are concerned about is their actual health. So her actually going to get an STD test but declining the rape kit test is something that I've seen. I've seen it on numerous occasions as a defense attorney in these type of cases. On the opposite side in the prosecution, that's a common thing that's done because people want to avoid... Victims don't want to tell anybody their story generally. Then one thing they really don't like doing is actually going on the stand, reliving the moment, telling the story again. So this is actually not common, but it's going to be a point that Holmes, if this is a criminal matter, his attorney is going to say, well, if you felt this way, you declined to get this test. I think this is easily overcome just asking questions that are in line with what I just said. What was the number one concern immediately after this happened? I was concerned about my health. I have a family. I want to live. She already talked about her love for Tiffany Henyard and how she knew her as a child. So I think that this is an easy hurdle to overcome, but it's going to be a road that they would go down easily, or they're going to go down. It is what it is.
This is a question that a lot of people may ask, but when you came back to Dalton and you go to the doctor, the hospital, may I ask, did you get a rape kit? If so, why or why not?
And that's what I was saying. I didn't because, one, it's an elected official, and them doing a rape kit is going to start the whole investigation right then and there. I haven't talked to Tiffany, and in my mind, because just working for her, I'm just thinking about don't mess up her, her vision, her her name, her career, whatever. And even though, again, me thinking in my head, it's just I didn't wake up in a room with her that she shouldn't take it like that, but seeing that she kind of did take it like that and where it is now, at the time I didn't know how that investigation would have gone. And I literally was fighting myself, even though again I feel my body.
And the biggest thing here is, again, that is actually common. Tested for STDs, declining the assault test is actually a common thing. I will tell you, just the thing that makes that problematic is when you're talking about crimes of assault, violence, physical evidence goes away. White collar investigation, the preliminary investigation at an old place I used to work, we had like a 30, 45-day window because white collar crime, people keep their laptops forever, their notes, their phones, all of that stuff. For crimes where we were looking at assault, abuse and neglect cases, those type of cases, it was like a 7-day window. Because after 7 days, physical evidence just starts to dissipate, it starts to get contaminated. So, in a perfect world, I wish that she would have gotten that done within close proximity to her feeling like this and the actual event itself, because it would have been so much more evidence. People want to have hardcore evidence of. I mean, this is a Law and Order generation. Like, where's the scientific evidence that links him to it? And now you don't have that. So now you're looking at story of person A, story of person B, maybe a witness to corroborate something for person A, and that's when stuff starts to get muddy.
But my mind saying, this is big. If you do this is something that you can defame him. Like you could possibly be wrong. Like I'm saying all this little stuff just to deter me, and that's mostly the main reason why I didn't, because I felt like I just need to talk to Tiffany first. Like I don't know what's going on. I need to talk to Tiffany.
Do you
first.
regret that decision?
I regret it wholeheartedly. Not me. I really believed that lady was gonna help me. I really did. That's why, and that's another reason why I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to Tiffany because she's gonna know what to do. I regret it wholeheartedly.
Fenia says she decided it was time to tell the mayor about her experience on that Vegas trip. According to the lawsuit, she arranged a meeting with Tiffany Henyard.
This shit about
Officer Miles was there too. The lawsuit notes that he drove Henyard to the meeting and also told her what he witnessed on the call with Andrew Holmes.
Who's all in this meeting?
It's only me, Officer Miles, and Tiffany Henyard. And we were in a closed office in a old bank.
The old bank across the street from Village Hall?
Yeah. And so we were in a room. I told her the whole story. And for her, it was kind of like when I was telling her, she didn't have a surprised look on her face, but it was kind of more like she immediately started thinking about herself. So the first thing she said was, this is going to ruin me, right? And I immediately said, that's why I'm coming to you first, because I want to move to where it doesn't hurt you. Like if you have to take this and ride with it of helping me and boosting yourself up or however you got to do it, that's fine. But I'm coming to you first to tell you that you're
tell Tiffany Henyard the entire story of
Yes.
what happened, what you can remember in Vegas, and what is her immediate reaction? What did she say?
That was the first thing she said. This is going to ruin me. And then she told me that you can't trust everybody. And you have him around your daughter and stuff, right? Like you telling me that I can't trust everybody, but you brung him into this camp. Like before, when you first brung him in there, actually everybody was opposed to it. Like we don't mess with him. He ran against you with mayor and all this stuff. Like how we didn't understand what she brung him in there for.
Do you think she believed you? At that point, she says this could ruin her, but does she not believe you? Or
Man, how she looked at me is like she kind of already knew type. Not that she didn't believe me, but it's like she kind of already just, I know that happened, but I'm actually just kind of, shocked that you're bringing this to me right now type face. Like, oh, you're.
And I would tell you, as far as when I hear this story, hold on, it was a comment I saw that I wanted to say real quick before I forget it. This is a very good comment. It's a very accurate comment. SA tests don't show willingness; they just show it happened. So I 100% agree with that. But is having that scientific evidence to show that something happened is just another piece of that puzzle. You want everything to just kind of fall in place in order. And when you're missing something in the chain, it leaves open an opportunity for one or more jurors to be like, but did this happen? she was passed out. This is how people think. And the other thing you got to think of, it's the standard in a criminal trial is beyond a reasonable doubt. That's not more likely than that, or probably it's beyond a reasonable doubt. With looking at all the evidence, without a shadow of a doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, this in fact did happen. I'm telling you, on these facts, it's tough on these facts. Having some scientific evidence to prove that the event actually happened would be a big help, but is I think is I would probably say it's 60-40 favorable to her. If I had to put a percentage to it, I think it's 60-40 favorable to her. 60-40. That's what I'm thinking.
You're not scared. You come to tell me, it's like, that's the type of face, like, that's exactly what she did. Like, you know it's gonna ruin me, right? And then that's when she came up. Then after her whole little spiel, that's when she got up and hugged me.
According to the lawsuit, Tiffany told Fenia in front of Officer Miles that she would take care of it and that Fenia should trust her.
You know, leaders oftentimes think like that. It's a very selfish way of thinking. One thing that I believe, and I think this is consistent with everything that I've read about Tiffany Henyard, that I've seen videos, interviews, completely thinks about herself. And when this happens, the very first thought that she has, according to her, is this could ruin me. Like, no, I don't know why. You would be shocked at how many people in leadership positions think that if bad news is out there related to my camp, it's going to be bad for me. It's the stupidest fucking view that I've ever seen. I've actually worked for someone who was like, well, oh, that's going to look so bad. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like, it wasn't something as terrible as this, but it was a wrong that was done. And they were worried about how it was going to look for them. I was like, yeah, you're going to look like a motherfucker who's doing the right thing. As you should, you know, but a lot of people have that jaded view on, oh man, something bad happened within my shop and it's going to reflect bad on me. No, the thing that reflects bad on you is when you don't do something about wrongdoing that's done or being done or that's being alleged. That's what looks bad. But a lot of leaders have that weird ass philosophy. Fair. Yep. Yep. Because she cared only about herself. Good point. I like that. And that's 100% right. That's 100% right.
Shortly after that, Fenia says Henyard called her boyfriend, Kamal Woods, who then came to.
All right, this shit about to get crazy right here. This shit was crazy. All right, y'all talked about the investigation that was done. They said they did an investigation. We talked about it briefly. And okay, enter Kamal Woods in the room. Why the hell is he even a part of this? This dude isn't a mediator. He isn't a therapist. He isn't an attorney. He isn't law enforcement. He's just a dude with a. He's just a dude. He's like just a guy. Like that goes to show you how not bright of a move this was on Tiffany Henyard. The first person you decide to get involved in it isn't anybody who's a professional in anything. Is your boyfriend who's I don't know what his work background is, but I know it's nothing related to this. That's actually crazy. Exactly. 100% right. Yo, hey, shout out to you. That is actually ridiculous. And probably the worst thing that could have been done was done. Calling somebody who don't know what the hell they doing. They're going to likely move about it in a hood ass way as opposed to the right way, and making sure something is done to actually investigate and determine the validity, the veracity of the allegation. Her camp is all hood. It's probably going to be handled in a hood way. I just said that.
To their meeting. Fenia said in her report to police that
crazy.
she then told Kamal the same information she had just told Tiffany.
He's just saying, "You gonna get paid. You good? You gonna get paid. No. You gonna get paid. What you want? That truck you run out there? You gonna have a new one? You gonna get a new car? Don't worry about it." That's like he studied just repeating this, and I'm telling him like this is not. I don't care about no getting paid. So now he's saying, "Tell me, okay, so what is it that you want?" I said, "I want justice. He needs to go to jail." Like it's. And to be honest, I said to jail or to hell. That's what I said. Either one. Those are the options for me. I don't care about no money. I don't care about any of that. If he did something that he wasn't supposed to do, this is what I want. So he's like,
all right, real quick. I thought that was interesting how she said that. Again, when I point out things that are going to be argued in a criminal litigation, criminal trial from Andrew Holmes' attorney, that's actually beautiful for her attorneys or the prosecution, because they should know the arguments that are coming. But the language she used there is something that was actually interesting. It was, I'm gonna run it back and see if y'all caught it. Before I run it back, did y'all catch her language that she said that is probably going to be a point that counsel for the defendant is going to pick at? I'm gonna give y'all a few seconds to see if y'all caught what she said, how she said it, and what it was. They're there for the money. I agree. I agree with both of those comments. I'm gonna run this back. I want to see if y'all catch this. I put it in my notes. All right. We're gonna go back to the 15-minute mark. 15:16. All right. I want y'all to pay attention to how she phrases something. And y'all, I'm gonna play it again through, and y'all let me know if y'all catch what the phrase was.
Information she had just told Tiffany.
he's just saying, "You gonna get paid. You good? You gonna get paid. No. You gonna get paid. What you want? That truck you run out there? You gonna have a new one? You gonna get a new car? Don't worry about it." That's like he studied just repeating this, and I'm telling him like this is not. I don't care about no getting paid. So now he's saying, "Tell me, okay, so what is it that you want?" I said, "I want justice. He needs to go to jail." Like it's. And to be honest, I said to jail or to hell. That's what I said. Either one. Those are the options for me. I don't care about no money. I don't care about any of that. If he did something that he wasn't supposed to do, this is what I want. So he's like, "Well, we got you." And then that's what
All right. Did y'all catch it? Tell me y'all. Tell me y'all heard that. Did y'all hear that? That's actually a good phrase too. But the important phrase here that's gonna point out, she said, if he did something, if he did something, it plays into the narrative that she doesn't know if nothing happened or if something happened. And if she's using language like if he did something, what I would have loved for her to say if I was her attorney, and I don't know, I'm assuming no. I'm assuming she didn't talk to anybody. You should always talk to your attorney or representative before you do an interview like this. But the last thing I would want her to say is if he did something, he should go to jail. No, the statement should be he did something, he needs to go to jail. That if is a little unequivocal. It's given if it's proven he did something, he should go to jail. That's not generally how victims talk, but I understand it from the point of she doesn't recall what happens. So it's not the worst type of language that can be used, considering the facts that she gave us of her being blacked out and just waking up half dressed and seeing Holmes. But it is language that is it's a scab that's going to get picked at to see if it's going to bleed. That's all I'm saying. I thought that was interesting. As soon as I heard it, I was like, that was some, you normally like language that's like, oh, this happened, that happened. So I can tell somebody said, where's her attorney at? But I can tell from this interview, I don't know if she did any preparation with an attorney. She should have, but if she did, that was one point that I would have said, hey, you need to speak in conclusory terms. We've wrote a civil complaint. You're sitting down doing an interview. We've talked about this enough time to where you should have exactly what happened down to a T. The time frame for having a gray area or being unequivocal with something that should be a certainty is over. So you need to say it expressly like this. Again, it's not the worst thing in the world because, again, she was blacked out according to her. So I can understand it. I can see how a jury will understand it, but it does create a thread to pull at.
Like, and to be honest, I said to jail or to hell. That's what I said. Either one. Those are the options for me. I don't care about no money. I don't care about any of that. If he did something that he wasn't supposed to do, this is what I want. So he's like, well, we got you. And then that's when he got out the room. And that's when they sent Miles to go get us something to eat. So now it's just me, Tiffany, and Kamal. Now we're in the outer area of the old bank. And we're just sitting there. And Kamal hands me a paper. He was like, write down what you want. So I literally sat there looking at that paper for maybe like an hour and a half as well. Because I'm like, what do you mean? What do I want? If I literally just told you, like, I want.
Hold on real quick. This part is interesting where you talk about what he want, but it was a comment that I saw. Let me see. All right, let me tell you exactly what's going to happen. Now, this is why you need to talk to somebody and prep to do an interview, okay? This interview that you're doing related to this situation is probably going to be introduced as evidence, not of what happened, but they're going to introduce this to impeach her when she's on the stand telling what happened, and they're going to cross-examine her. They want to impeach her. They want to find holes in their story. So if, to your point, Yvette, and hey, that's actually a great point to you, if she corrects it prior to going to trial, during trial, she gets up there and she is using language that's it's adamant, strong language, it's decisive language. The very first thing that's going to be brought up is, didn't you do an interview on or about December 14th, December 13th, 2025? Yes, I did. And in that interview, you were recounting the facts as they happen, as you remember them, right? Why, yes, I did. And your testimony here today is that unequivocally this happened. You said he did this, he should be in jail. Yes, that is my testimony. Well, during that interview, wasn't your testimony, if he did this, he should be in jail? She can't say no. She's going to say, yes, it was. So you were telling the truth then and you're not telling the truth now. What is the reason for the difference? The reason is because you can't tell us what happened because you aren't sure if it in fact happened. It's just, that is how this video and that one if is going to be used. This isn't coming in as evidence of what happened. She's going to stand on the stand and testify to that. But the minute she gives a conclusory statement, hey, if she says anything that's remotely different from that if, they're going to come guns blazing to impeach her. And that is a very, very tough thing to do, even if she's being truthful. When you're being truthful, but there was you misspoke in a prior occasion that's in court and is inconsistent with what you're saying now, if you're being truthful, it comes off as disingenuous because now you're flustered. You're trying to correct yourself and it looks just unbound. It looks unstable. So that's how that statement is going to be used. It's a hurdle that can be overcome, but that is going to be very, very vital to the defendant's counsel to try to impeach her testimony, because now they're not using this for the truthfulness. They want to attack her credibility. Well, on this date, you said if it happened because you weren't sure it happened. Now you're saying it absolutely happened. But didn't you state in that video that you smoke and drink marijuana? And you do it often. This wasn't the first time that you smoke. It's going to be, I've been on the witness stand before. but I was on a witness stand like as an attorney, and they were like, "Stop giving answers as an attorney." So I know how things should be answered. I know I was very thoughtful in the words that I used prior to me saying them. That's going to be a prime point for impeachment. I think the way to overcome it is her attorney is going to have to stress exactly what she said in this beginning. This dude was more of a mentor. This was somebody I trusted. This is someone who had experience in the political arena that trumped my minor experience I had as an employee for a political representative. Um, yeah, she's gonna have to talk about the way she's gonna have to overcome that is by talking about how she didn't want to believe that that actually happened. Because again, it's that type of language is consistent. I mean, a lot of times we've seen this all the time. And what is it, Stockholm syndrome, where people start to protect the violator of them for some reason. That is a real thing. It happens all the time. I think it's called Stockholm syndrome. I can't recall, but that's going to be a point of impeachment. They're going to really have to buckle down her testimony and prepare her for that, because that's coming. That was probably the biggest thing, or I think that was the most. I think that was the worst thing that she said in this interview to her story. Everything else, I don't think is very that difficult. I'm like, it's kind of bad, but we can work around it. But that, for impeachment purposes, is going to be a pain in the ass. Let's see. I'm telling you what the defense attorney is going to argue. I look at everything from a defense attorney side. My investigators hate it. They be like, "Oh man, I bring you this." They bring me a fax, and I be like, "Well, what about this? Or what about that? And what about this?" And you know what it does? It causes them to go back out there, investigate harder, and fill in those fucking holes that I pointed out. So that's how it's supposed to be played. That's why I mean, it's beautiful. Like, you wouldn't want to. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's great to have a perspective and be able to see it from both sides. I think there's some information there, but she's going to be impeached. They're going to try to impeach her. It's just going to be on her attorney's side, on the prosecution side, if it goes forward to a criminal trial, to make sure that they do their due diligence and prepare for that. And part of that preparing her is making sure that the story that she provides in her testimony is falling in place. Is falling in place, and she should be able to explain this inconsistency, or what would be perceived as an inconsistency, relatively easy. I agree. That's the. I think that's the biggest takeaway in all this, because everybody's going to get mad at me, is I've I've seen victims and perpetrators, and I've seen victims who were loved ones, family members. Anything that she's saying is not inconsistent with what victims do. Nobody wants to go through this. A lot of these cases don't get prosecuted because the victim doesn't even want to go on the stand, because they have to go through it, relive it. It's a whole type of PTSD. And when you're talking about what happened, your body goes through the same physiological cues and feelings that it did as it did when the event occurred. But I do think her statement is consistent with someone who is a little bit younger, was a little bit naive at the time, was trying to do what she thought was the right thing. But that being said, that's her attorney's job to stress those points. It's not their attorneys. It's not going to be Andrew Holmes' attorney's job. That's the prosecution's job to stress those points. So, take it both ways, guys. Don't look at it from one perspective. I would love for somebody to sit down and tell me everything that the defense is going to argue. Then I shouldn't lose. If you lose and you know everything the defense is going to argue, that's not a good thing. But yeah, let's see. I agree. He probably wouldn't do it though. I don't know. Would the officer give an interview? No, I think the officer's been pretty consistent. So I don't think it's that much harm there. I think it'll only bolster her case. So yeah, I think that that'll be favorable. I would actually yeah, if I was I wouldn't if I were her attorney and or the prosecution, I would be completely amenable to the officer giving an interview. Because regardless of what threads we find to pull at, the overall story has been consistent since day one. Yeah, yeah, that's another one. That's a good point. Good point. Good ear. Good point. That's a good point. Good point. I agree that his testimony comes in, well, is two parts. Audio recording of the call, of the FaceTime, Zoom, whatever the hell they did, is probably not going to come in. His testimony as to the conversation he had with Holmes is going to come in. I think that his testimony is going to be important that something happened, because he's talking about how this guy bragged what it was. I think that audio is paramount because everybody who's going to be in the jury pool heard that shit and they're going to believe exactly what they heard, what their ears told them. But I think the testimony is going to be interesting because I don't think it's about if it happened or if it didn't happen. I think what it is about, and the argument wouldn't be, I don't think he's going to argue that it didn't happen. I think he'd be foolish to argue that it didn't happen. I think that his argument, I mean, if he were making an argument, his argument is that, hey, we were two adults. This is what we did. We both had a little to drink. We smoked a little weed. It is what it is. That's what it was. I think if he get up there and say that nothing happened, he's going to be fucked. Pardon my language, but he's going to be screwed royally. I think that that's the wrong argument to make. If the argument is going to be nothing happened, something happened, but it was consensual, or argument number three, something happened, but it was a plan calculated by Miles and Dukes to be able to finesse me and the municipality out of money. Out of those three, I think the most logical argument, I think the best argument is the one in the middle. Now, the one on the right is the collusion. That's just too hard to prove. It's too much stuff there. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Again, don't get mad at the messenger. I'm here. I'm gonna tell y'all the pros and the cons, man. Don't take it too personal, okay? That's how the law works. And if you came to me with a problem, the first thing I'm gonna do is tell you, oh man, this ain't good, this ain't good, this ain't good. But because we know what they're gonna say, these are gonna be our counterpoints. So I mean, that's just kind of how this game goes. Yeah. I believe that to be true. I believe that to be true. She talks about another lawsuit she filed.
And Kamal. Now we're in the
We'll
outer
get to it.
area of the old bank, and we're just sitting there. And Kamal hands me a paper. He was like, "Write down what you want." So I literally sat there looking at that paper for maybe like an hour and a half as well, because I'm like, what do you mean? What do I want? If I literally just told you, like, I want him to go to jail, I want him to be charged, they need to come get him. What do you mean write a list? Why am I doing this? So it literally took me an hour and a half, and he's still even telling me, come on, just write down, like, through the whole time, just write it down, just write what you want, write what you want, just go. So and I did, thinking that these people on my side. No, because now the last thing Tiffany told me before leaving the campaign office is, give me a week, and she's gonna get her lawyer on it. She was like, you want me to use my lawyer, right? Yeah, because I don't.
That's crazy as hell. And that's how I know that she really trusted Tiffany Henyard and believed that Tiffany Henyard was her friend. Give me a week and let me get my lawyer on it. You want me to use my lawyer? And she was like, yeah. That's, I don't know. I hope justice plays out, and I hope that people are very astute and have their ears and eyes open to any evidence that's out in the public forum, whether or not it is or isn't admissible. I'll just leave it at that.
Give me a week, and she's gonna get her lawyer on it. She was like,
That's
you want me to
crazy.
use my lawyer, right? Yeah, because I don't have a lawyer. I don't have no money for no lawyer. So I said, of course. So I'm thinking that she's gonna take this on. Okay, we're gonna talk about it. Wait for me.
May I ask, what did you ask for?
Honestly, I just said I'm on my car paid off. If I can get a couple months of rent, that's fine.
Sure.
But and stuff for my son and money from just being hurt. Like I and it was so hard. It took me so long to even write it down because I'm like, sir, like it's like a ransom list or something. Like I've never been in this predicament to want to just write.
Regardless what she says, everything that she says, I think her story is overall consistent. And I mean, I think she just would be great on the stand because I believe her as she's telling this story. I mean, it just I just she appears genuine. Again, hasn't been under any cross examination. That's when that's when you really determine how things are going to play out. But I think she's doing a good job of telling her story.
Down a list like it's Christmas or something,
But then
So-
Kamal takes the list
folds it up, put it in the back
and then
pocket.
says, "Let me reach out to the attorney. We'll get back to you."
So then we all disperse, we all leave, and I didn't hear from her ever again.
We reached out to Kamal Woods about this interaction, but he has not responded to our numerous requests for comment.
I don't think any of that will be really. I don't. It might come in at a criminal trial if it was related to the assault allegations, but likely not. That's probably going to be more the civil aspect. I think this is beautiful for the civil aspect. For the civil case, I think everything that she said is absolutely 100% beautiful. I told y'all off the jump, I think her civil case for wrongful termination is going to get, I think she's going to knock that out the park easy. I think she's going to knock that out of the park easy because it's just a lower standard to prove. And I think the facts are more readily available. And subject to a subpoena, interrogatories, having to answer questions under oath. Yeah, I think the civil case is not even going to be an issue. I think she's going to get a W on that one easy.
Fenia
I think
provided
she should get a W on
NBC5
that
a
one.
copy of a letter she received in June 2023 from attorney Michael Delgado, who represented the village at the time, asking her to preserve evidence. The police report also details that Officer Miles was contacted by his department's internal affairs unit and given a letter also asking him to preserve evidence.
That's a normal thing. It's a preservation letter sent out and received them hundreds of times, probably thousands of times. It's just a letter that's sent in anticipation of litigation. Hey, litigation is going to occur related to this matter. You have a preservation letter you received. You have an obligation to preserve evidence. If it's found out that you destroyed any evidence after receiving that preservation letter, you are screwed. So, but that's a normal thing. Sending out a preservation letter to persons who have evidence that's going to be coming into play during litigation.
Delgado told us in an email the letter and review of this matter was performed on behalf of the village of Dalton. The email goes on to say that his office is not authorized to release any records without the village's approval, and that we should contact the village's administrator to request those records. We did reach out to the village administrator and the village's PR firm about the records, but we have not received a response.
What happened to that letter?
I still got that letter.
What did you do with it? Did you submit that information that he was asking for?
Now I get I didn't give them anything. And that's probably another reason why that probably sent them off. Because I'm like, why are you trying to get? They even had a meeting with Officer Miles. They tried to tell him, after they heard that it was that Officer Miles actually recorded it, they were like, well, we need that. Isn't that a work phone? He was like, it is a work phone, but it's a work phone that I pay for. So they even got mad at him. Like they sent him the same exact letter as well. It said the exact same thing, except for our names changed that we need to give over whatever, and we haven't gave nothing.
Fenia says the mayor told her to take as much time as she needed.
Yeah, that's probably was a smarter. It probably was a smart play. I mean, you could have given them the evidence. I just wouldn't have gave them original copies. I wouldn't have gave them original copies because I just don't trust it. But as long as you maintain your original copy, but probably the smartest play because you're giving the letter to an attorney who is not your attorney. Um, I hope she has an attorney in all this. I don't know. I don't know if she even brought that up, but she's listening to everybody but somebody who's looking out for her interests.
But according to the lawsuit, within days of their meeting, Fenia was put on unpaid medical leave. Although she says she did not request it. She says she was fired from both her jobs in Thornton Township and the village of Dalton in October 2023.
Somebody's coming to you saying that something happened to them as egregious as it was, and you saying, okay, that's fine, you're fired though. In what sense did that make? I couldn't tell you. It's Tiffany. She's more focused on Tiffany and whatever Tiffany are going. It don't have to be career. It can be if she's about to go eat a.
Real quick too, that's a good point. I did see that, but that's a good point. He was demoted. Being demoted is a form of retaliation as well. I told y'all about a whistleblower situation I had, and at the time, my number two. Normally, if number one is out, number two rises up. Number two was with me and doing the right thing. So when I was ousted, he didn't rise up to that position as would have been the norm. So he had a viable claim for retaliation because he didn't get something, a promotion or something that he wasn't entitled to. So getting a demotion for conduct is a form of retaliation that can bring about legal consequences. Not getting something that you normally would have gotten in the normal course of the business for retaliatory reasons is a civil claim as well that could be brought by Officer Miles because he was demoted, and he was demoted because he spoke up on something that he was within his lawful right to do.
Cup of ice. It has to just be about her. Like it doesn't matter about her career. It's about Tiffany and how she moves, how she breathes. And then everybody around her circle, we also have to breathe on the same synchronization as her to make sure that everything is running for Tiffany. So it doesn't matter even if it's a career.
We received a statement from Tiffany Henyard's PR firm in March of 2024. It reads as follows. As previously issued, the Village of Dalton conducted a thorough investigation into these allegations. The investigation was led by an independent third-party company consisting of former law enforcement officers.
All right. Now, one of the things we talked about in the last video where y'all said Kamal Woods did the investigation, one of the very first things I said, I was like, yo, it had to be somebody from the outside because all these people are too close to home. So, again, I'm not saying any investigation was done correctly, but the proper language is used. When you have internal issues being investigated, you cannot investigate them. You have to get a third party on the outside, someone from a neighboring jurisdiction, maybe a attorney from another jurisdiction or investigator. So they said it was law enforcement, but at least that part was said right. I don't trust any investigation that's done internally by any municipality with which Tiffany Henyard is the leader of, but at least the right language is used that it was an independent outside party. We're going to talk a little bit about why that investigation will never probably be released to the public anytime soon. But let's go and get through this part.
Into these allegations. The investigation was led by an independent third-party company consisting of former law enforcement officers, none of whom have ever been affiliated with the Village of Dalton. Former police officer Miles was interviewed and denied knowing anything about these allegations. Also, despite numerous attempts by the village's independent investigators to contact Ms. Dukes, she refused to give a statement or cooperate with our investigation. Unfortunately, this is nothing more than two disgruntled village employees who are trying to make off with the taxpayers' hard-earned dollars. The village looks forward to defending these allegations and pursuing all other available remedies to the village. When we asked majority of trustees about this third-party investigation, Oh, they said they had no knowledge of it. They also told us any third-party investigation would need the approval of the village board.
What do you say to that?
I say it's funny because if we're disgruntled former employees, one, Miles still works there, so I don't see how he can be disgruntled or anything. You knocked him down from where he was, but he's still working there. Me, I'm not disgruntled at all. Something happened to me and now I'm hurt. Just imagine if it didn't, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Like, I don't see how you could put that. So again, it's just a stupid move on her behalf, talking faster than her brain is thinking. Because if that's what you felt that was good, made sense to you, that I'm a former, and I want to run off with taxpayers' dollars. I was making the most money that I've ever made in my life working for her. I was making almost $138, $38,000 a year. That was my salary. Like, I'd never seen that. Like, I never had money from my check left over and it didn't have to go to something. So why on earth would I have ever messed that up? Like, I even was talking to Jen. I said, I kind of much rather probably would have been rather on her side and fighting you than this being my narrative. Like, that's how much of I'm disgruntled.
She's still thinking about other things outside of what was done to her in this aspect. But this is interesting. Real quick, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this investigation that was done. If I was her attorney, again, I'm praying that she has an attorney, somebody to talk to. But if I was her attorney, if an investigation was in fact done, let's assume that it was done. And I did see the comment where that letter was written by her PR firm. I knew for a fact that she didn't write it. that letter was actually well written and used language that was objective in nature, as it should have been. But yeah, I knew she didn't write that. But let's say an investigation was done. Okay? If an investigation was done, I would probably actually want, if I'm her attorney, I would actually want her to participate in that investigation. I would want her to give her testimony in that investigation. And of course, I would be sitting right in the room as her attorney, because typically this is I've interviewed and conducted investigations looking into political figures relatively high. We just leave it at that. And I've been interviewed as the target of investigation as a role that I had within government. You know, hey, beat those charges like Rocky, but that's neither here nor there because nothing happened. But typically in those settings, when interviews are being conducted, the first thing they do is slide the tape recorder out and say, hey, introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Ted Jones. I'm the investigator conducting this interview. Today, I'm going to be asking you some questions related to X, Y, and Z. We're going to record this session. And most places, I'm not sure if they have this there, but most municipalities have language where this is actually weird, where like we're employees, because she lost her job, but most places have language where employees have to participate in investigations into internal matters. And if they don't, they could receive stiff sanctions because you have an obligation to participate as an employee. I've seen people quit because they didn't want to participate. But I would want her to participate because they're going to slide the tape recorder out. And after they introduce themselves, give all the talk, they're going to record. They're going to say, okay, now the date is December 17th, Tuesday of 2024. I'm Marcus Weeks, and in the room, I'm here with this person, that person, that person, that person. People are going to give their names, all of their information, pull all this shit out there. Everything is on record. And if she does an interview and it's recorded, and what she says is the exact same thing she's saying now, that would be the absolute most beautiful thing ever. It would have been completely beneficial for her to participate in an investigation if they in fact had one. With Officer Miles, it's a little bit different. He didn't get terminated. He lost, he got a demotion, but he kept his job. Now, if an investigation happened, why wouldn't he testify as to what he knows? Well, it could be a couple of things. He could have just not want to testify, but I seriously doubt it. He was willing to put his stuff in a lawsuit. The audio is out there that seems consistent with the lawsuit and with what Ms. Dukes is saying now. Another reason that, again, let's just assume that he didn't testify, which is what the PR firm said. Could he not have testified because that was an exchange or quid pro quo that was made so he could keep his job? Wouldn't be outside of the realm of possibility. Hey, you can either lose your job or keep your job and maintain your employment. But if you want that employment, don't say anything. I mean, so it is a possibility, not saying that happened. It could go a lot of ways, but I think I would have loved for her to actually participate in any investigation that was done and have that audio recording just out there. It would have been a beautiful thing. And normally, what you would do in that situation, they'll have their audio recording. I would have my audio recording. We recording everything at the same time, so they can't figure out a way to alter or finesse the recording because I have an original, you have an original. It is what it is. But yeah, I think it would have been advantageous for her to participate if she had counsel and if it was actually recorded as it should have been, because I think that would have only just bolstered her case. Let me see. How can super stupid afford a PR firm? Hey, she probably not paying for it. Somebody else probably paying for it. Let's see. Okay, why won't they get the investigation? This is why they won't get the investigation. You want a copy of, because I talked about this briefly, but then when somebody actually reacted to that portion of the video, and that was how I saw it. I was like, I need to explain that over. All right. If you want an active investigation, you are requesting records. So if you're requesting records, it's going to be a Freedom of Information Act request. Let's just go ahead and explain why they won't get this investigation. Um, and I'll use the federal rules. Most times the states track the federal rules. But you want to get a copy of investigation, you reach out. Let's say the media reaches out as the media. Media reaches out. We want a copy of the investigation because we're a media outlet. Well, there's a few reasons they won't get it. There's a lot of exceptions. Number one, if it's active, like I said in the video before, that's not going out. Number two is active investigation is not going out. Number two, it's an investigation related to a third party that isn't you. It's one thing if I request an investigation that's being done about me. It's another thing if Joe Blow reaches out to the FBI to request an investigation into me. That's my third party information. What if in that investigative report it has interviews that's done with me, my family members? So it's third party information. So generally, the general rule is a third party can't request information that's solely directly related to you. Now, there's some exceptions to that. Let's say if I requested information on, I don't know, let's say Griselda Blanco or John Gotti or somebody. Well, because they're deceased, their privacy expectation is lower, so there's a higher chance that I can get those records. But if I'm requesting information about an investigation into you, the first thing I'm gonna have to do is one, prove that you are deceased, so you have a lower privacy expectation, or two, have paperwork where you sign allowing me the right to get files about you. So you generally can't look at a third party's information. That would be a terrible rule if I could just request information on any and everybody and they would give it to me. That's not how it goes. I think that's rule B6, rule 7C. These are all federal rules of exemptions to the Freedom of Information Act. The general rule is we're going to give you this information unless one of these 7 to 9 exceptions or exemptions apply. One is third-party information that you aren't privy to. Two, it's an active investigation or active litigation. So those are just a few of the reasons why they actually wouldn't get it. Yo, what's good, bro? I'm working, man. You know I'm gonna call you out. I hit you up in a minute, all right, dog. All right, man. You saw that link I sent you though, right? Okay, I was about to say. Okay, straight spork action. All right, man. All right. All right. So those are the reasons that they won't get access to it. Now, if it was an investigation and she was trying to request the information because it's her investigation, she still won't get it because it's probably because it's tied to active litigation. But if the litigation was exhausted, all the appeal rights have exhausted, you can't file any appeals, then she stands an easier chance of getting it than someone else. If it's no, I probably still wouldn't give it up if it's a third party's information and you're trying to receive it. And even if they did get it, it would be heavily redacted. Names, addresses, facts surrounding the investigation for certain law enforcement exemptions. But that's why it's going to be hard as hell for them to get that damn investigative report while everything is still pending and in limbo. It's just not going to happen. No Freedom of Information Act request is going to be able to get that done. Yeah, nah, they're not gonna get the redacted version. I'm kind of I'm an expert in very few areas of law. One of them would probably be the Freedom of Information Act, and a third party information I'm not giving out if it's heavily redacted because it's a third party's information. You aren't entitled to it. The only way you be entitled to it is if they consent or if that person is deceased and has a lower expectation of privacy. You aren't entitled to it. Now, sometimes courts would argue, or people would try to argue, well, you can do they call it a segregation analysis. Well, go through the investigation and redact all of the parts that fall within the exemption. One, that won't fly because it's active. Normally, if it's active related to litigation, as a matter of course, I'm not giving you anything. If it's not active, sometimes you may be able to get it redacted, but the redacted version that you will get would be so dry you won't be able. I've done that. I've literally done that. Like, okay, we have to give out this responsive record. This record is responsive to what they're asking for. We have to give it out, go through and redact everything. So B6, B7, B6, 7C requires you to redact all PII names. You got to redact all names, all addresses, all phone numbers, anything that could be used to identify an individual, email addresses, all of that's gone. Well, what's another thing that you can redact? Anything that describes for investigation, 7E, anything that describes law enforcement processes. If I got an investigation on related to investigating an assault allegation, everything in there describes how my law enforcement agency goes about conducting assault investigations. And I would redact all of that because I wouldn't want that to get out. And you have to be able to, and if you're using that exemption saying, hey, I'm exempt, then I'm not giving out any of this information because if I give out this information, this is how we conduct our investigations into assaults. And then you have to, the legal thing you would have to do is articulate what would be the harm in giving this out. If we were to give out this information, bad actors could use this information to determine ways to circumvent our investigative efforts into looking into criminal assaults. That's all you need for. What point would it be to get 35 pages of an investigation when 97% of it is redacted with the exception of the date, the page number? So that's how that would play out. So you probably can't get a redacted version because it's an active case. If it was not active, if all the appeals were exhausted and it's just an investigation, if you got it and it was redacted, it would be so heavily redacted you wouldn't be able to make shit out of it. You'd be like, I don't even know what this is. It would actually just make you more frustrated. Yep. He filed the lawsuit. See, I didn't know. Okay, his was a joint lawsuit. I thought it was a unilaterally on her part. Okay, well, if he filed the lawsuit, good for him. All right, so if the court asks for proof of the investigation and its findings, and Tiffany can't produce evidence of an investigation, what happens? Well, that's actually a great question. Hey, you get a time for that one because someone asked me. I actually had copied the comment. They was like, "Why is she allowed to lie in court so much and nothing happens?" And I was gonna do like a video, 5-7 minute video, exactly on what I think the reason is for that. But if it's an investigation that's done related to the facts that are at issue, that would have to be turned over as evidence because it's going to be evidence that it can either prove a person's guilt or prove a person's evidence. If they don't have that, she would get. If they don't have that, okay. Let's talk about from a criminal standpoint. Now we know it's Vegas and Illinois and all over the place, but let's just talk about generally. An investigation was done into an issue that's in a criminal trial, and the prosecution is like, okay, we need to see a copy of the investigation because we want to use the fact that Officer Miles declined to testify, said nothing ever happened, to impeach him when he gets up there and testifies that something did happen. If she doesn't have that report, she's going to be screwed because why would you even bring that case? Like now you're asserting to have evidence that can impeach his testimony and now you don't have it. If you don't have that, the entire lawsuit or the defense or whatever it is that you're trying to articulate is bullshit, pretty much. So that's how that would go into play. If it's an investigation related to what's at issue in the court, it's fair game to come in. Now, when I talked about they can't get it, that's if a third party who's not a party to the litigation wants it. But if it's related to that litigation, it's coming in because that investigation, whether it was done or not, it could be used as evidence to prove or disprove a person's guilt or innocence. So the court can compel them to come in. And if they can't produce it, that's evidence that they don't have. And that's evidence that's going to make their case much more worse than what it already is. Yeah. Let's see. But I right between the lines, facts. All right, let's go and get through this.
I love working for you. Like I loved you as a person. Like I actually still love her as a person. I don't know who.
Hey, it's common with victims. After all this, after all the wrongdoing, after all the this didn't happen, you capping all of this, she like, I still love you as a person.
She is now, but I still love her. I really do.
You still love her.
Yes, I really looked up to her.
Did you see that? How she said yes when she asked her that question? She meant that shit.
Like I loved you as a person. Like I actually still love her as a person. I don't know who she is now, but I still love her. I really do.
You still love her.
Yes, I really looked up to her. I'm hurt. I would never ever talk to her ever again. But the love was real though. I really looked up to you since I was young. So to see you flip and you're not even not even a person that I met. You're a monster now.
I agree.
Because this is not even who you are. Like you used to. Man, she was really cool. She's actually a really cool person. So I don't know where it went wrong. I don't know if it's now she got a lot of money. So some people lose their mind when they get a lot of money and they start acting different. I don't know.
It's almost a year after the Vegas trip. In March 2024, Fenia files a police report with South Holland PD that is then faxed to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. In it, she names Andrew Holmes as having assaulted her. And the police in March 2024, Fenia files a police report with South Holland PD that is then faxed to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
That's strange and odd. Yeah, that's strange and odd. It could still be the basis for the Vegas guys reopening the investigation that was previously closed, but I don't know. That's odd to do, but considering these people are from the other side of the Illinois, Nevada, I can see why it would be done, but is a very odd thing that I haven't seen happen that often. It probably does happen, but I haven't seen it happen that often. And that's you're 100% right. AP is analogous to that situation 100%. The situation would be analogous to an accident report that the employer neglected to submit, which would bolster the claimant's position. 100% right. All right, let's go and get through this.
Department. In it, she names Andrew Holmes as having assaulted her. And the police report is very detailed. Lots of names and information is redacted. It shows that Las Vegas detectives completed phone interviews with Fenia and Officer Miles. It also details that no video footage from Planet Hollywood, the hotel where the group stayed, existed due to the time lapse.
Most of those cameras in those places, they just record over the same hard drive information. Now, there is a way. How can I say this? Because I don't want to make it seem like they aren't doing their job. But if it's recorded on a hard drive, they have slack space, unallocated clusters. There could be ways where they could potentially retrieve that information, but a lot of local law enforcement may not be equipped to do that, because when something is on a hard drive, is there indefinitely, even when you think it's not. But yeah, most of those places, the footage just loops, and what they record on Tuesday is re-recorded over with Thursday's footage. That's just kind of how it goes.
According to the report, the detective contacted an attorney who said he represented Henyard. And that attorney initially said the mayor was willing to provide statements. But days later, that attorney told the detective that the interview would need to be canceled. He advised the detective that Fenia and Miles filed a civil lawsuit against the mayor, Thornton Township, and the village of Dalton. According to the police report, the detective notes that items of clothing were tested and an audio recording was submitted by the attorney representing Fenia and Officer Miles. Additionally, over 50 photos and videos were submitted by Fenia. Now, we submitted a request for evidence to Las Vegas police, which was declined. We also requested evidence from the attorney representing Fenia and Officer Miles. We did not get a response. According to the report, the case was presented to the Clark County District Attorney's Office. It goes on to say, this case was denied by the DA's office.
I did a video when we talked about why it was dismissed. I talked about it a little in the last video. Prosecutors generally, not all of them, but a lot of them are just kind of soft. They're like, yo, if it's not gift wrap, and I can understand why. If I don't have a 99.9% chance of proving this case, that means there's going to be reasonable doubt and I'm going to get a loss. Why am I going to waste investigative resources for a 2-3 week trial where I got hundreds of thousands of dollars being poured out for something that we're not even going to get a conviction on? So I talked about it in the previous videos. Real quick, some of the reasons why they're going to decline prosecution. One, these people are outside of their jurisdiction. It's happened in Nevada. They're in Illinois. Illinois is a much harder case to gather evidence for. The transportation issues. Two, the political aspects. The AG is probably elected, if not appointed. If they were actually residents in Vegas, it would probably be a more likely scenario that they were going to move forward with it. But they're a bunch of out-of-towners. Another reason is some of the things that we've talked about that are threads that the defense is going to pull at. When you look at all those things collectively as a whole, they probably view it as not a strong likelihood that they are going to win. Oh, it's a 60% chance they're going to win. No, the federal government has like a 97% conviction rate because they only bring cases that they know they can win. That's just kind of how it is. It's probably like that at the same state level at this attorney general's office, the DA's office. So I don't know. Like, they know that the audio recording is probably going to be inadmissible, so they won't have that audio recording. They know that video that they know the audio recording is inadmissible. They know that there's no video footage from the hotel. Those are all the reasons why they're probably going to be like, nah, we're not going to take a look at it. Now, new evidence could have the local law enforcement reopen the investigation, and if they get new facts, they present those new facts, and the prosecutor, the DA's office may change their mind. But I would be shocked, honestly, if they decided to move forward criminally with this as it stands now, as the facts are now.
The detective told Officer Miles the next day that the case was denied due to insufficient evidence. When asked by Miles, what are we missing? The officer reports telling Miles they had gathered everything they had been told about. The report concludes that the case has been closed, but if new evidence is discovered, it will be reviewed again.
They just said there was lack of evidence. Even and when they did call me to say that it was lack of evidence, I was like, so how do you guys solve 20-year cold cases and all this stuff? She said, oh yeah, we do that. We just we have lack of evidence for your case.
We reached out to attorney John Erickson.
And I know that shit is painful for her, for the prosecutors to say there's a lack of evidence, because this is something that happened to her. Like, if this happened to you, you like, yo, there's evidence there. I understand both sides of it. I've been in situations where there were persons I loved and cared about, and I'm like, yo, they were a victim of a crime. They were a victim of a crime. What are y'all gonna do about it? But then when I objectively look back and thought about it, I was like, damn, I don't know if this one gonna fly. Like, that's just kind of what it is. Rest in peace to my older brother, who's no longer here due to gun violence. I can remember having a conversation with my mother saying, hey, if and when this matter goes to trial for this individual, I was like, yo, they aren't going to paint. You need to be prepared, because the other side isn't going to paint your son out to be the loving son that you know and love. That's just kind of how this game goes. People are, things are going to be dug up, and that's how it is. So I understand both sides of it. I've been in both sides where there was persons I care about who were victims of crime, and I was like, yo, we need to move forward with this shit. Let's do it. And then the more I thought about it, I can remember thinking everything that the prosecutor told me, I already knew it before he told it to me. All I could do was just like prepare my peeps. Like, I was like, hey, this is probably what's going to happen. This is what they was going to say. And it's fucked up when something happened to you and you like, yo, it happened. But when the prosecutors, the DAs is like, yeah, we know you got this, but that's not strong enough. And it was fucked up for me because I was right in the middle. I was like, damn, the evidence, but it did happen. But, so I understand her position and how she feels. I see both sides of it.
Erickson, who, according to the police report, represents Andrew Holmes, but we did not get a response. Holmes has never publicly addressed these allegations, even in response to the civil lawsuit. And since filing that complaint, Fenia has attended several village board meetings. At one meeting in November 2024, she addresses Andrew Holmes.
So tell me I'm lying, or tell them why.
Going to the meetings, I tried to go and confront him, but every time I went
forward a little bit, I think we all recall this meeting where she went there and confronted him, and I think Tiffany Henyer saved him because he looked like he was actually about to open his mouth and address it to me when I watched the video. This is actually a very good point right here, and you could be correct. She could be referring to what was done on the Vegas side as the actual independent third-party investigation that was done. So that actually, I think that's insufficient. I don't think an independent investigation done by out-of-state law enforcement is consistent with an independent investigation that should have been done, that was not say completed, but done within the bounds of your own jurisdiction. I just think that's weird. Like, I would go get someone from the neighboring city 2-3 towns over, get some high-priced firm from Chicago to come in and do an audit or something, an investigation. But yeah, but she probably is referring to that. That's actually a really good point. Exactly. Tax dollars go to the criminal case. They need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Yep. Extradition, cost, evidence, bringing them over, housing them. They go. Now, if they were in Vegas, if they were residents of Vegas, they probably would move forward with it immediately. But you're 100% right. Yeah. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit because there was a part in here that's. Let me see. Did I put a note? Let me see. I'm trying to look at my notes because I got some time stats. Okay. 20. All right, past that. All right, let's forward to the 30-minute mark. Because I thought this was interesting. And let's just go and see this. I thought this
But
was
now,
good.
but when it happens, so it's just thinking like that, like how dare you? Then they just feel as they gotta hug me because this is what they know. That's not what I want people to know. So this is hard, but but no matter how hard it is, you gotta stand up for yourself. And that's what I just keep telling people. And even when I meet little girls, and I've even met one, and for her to only be her only 11 now. So that's tough because you're 11 now, but when it happens, so it's just thinking like that, like how dare you? So just like that, and luckily she was able to say something too. She spoke up, she got her parents involved. So yes, you just have to involve. You gotta keep people involved, and I'm learning that too. I'm learning to ask for help because that's the hardest thing for me to do. Because when I've asked for help before, I don't get it. I want people who's fighting to know it's going to be a lot. I didn't even know half of the stuff that I was going to go through. I never, just again, like I said, I would have never even expected to be in an NBC today. Never would imagine ever being in a news place ever in my life. But here I am because this is serious and I mean it, and I want justice. I want truth. I want him to tell these people what you've done. And I don't want. I don't want a sorry. That's, of course, don't tell me sorry. That's cool. I already know what you did. But now I just need you to go and stand up, and you need to go through what you need to go through for what you've done to me. That was your decision, and I might not even get the truth. That's the hard part. That's the part that kills me. I might not get the truth, and that's the part that makes me feel like, and I don't want nobody to take this wrong, but that might make me crazy.
And you talk about help and trying to get answers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a community activist, Jedediah Brown, who went to jail.
Yeah.
He went to jail. And he said that he's got your back.
Yeah, and I promise you, it's been so many people that tried to deter me from him, whatever. Nobody can. So I'm so appreciative of Jedediah Brown. Thank you. I'm elated for him. Like I couldn't have picked a better person, and I didn't even know him before the situation. Like I didn't really follow up on the other stories that he advocated for. So he kind of came, and I was kind of standoffish with him at first because I didn't think this guy just coming out of nowhere. You just want to help. You don't even know me, but today,
The interesting thing too is it's always dope to have somebody in your corner, to help you fight a battle that you may feel is on some David and Goliath shit, like you going up against the establishment or something like that. But it's interesting because what I gathered from this is she was like when he first came out to offer help, she was kind of skeptical, and a lot of people are like that because I'm gonna just be honest, it's a cold world out here. Like a lot of people aren't used to someone doing something nice for them without expecting anything in return. I was with my son one day and it was like a lady on the street. It was cold as fuck outside too. And you know how you go to like some corner stores and they got like little cheap ass clothes in there. And she had to be maybe early 20s. And I went inside the store and got her like a coat. It was like $40 or something. And like she couldn't fathom like, wait, you just got me a coat for no reason? I was like, yeah, it's cold out this month. Like, I'm like, it's cold, but she kind of, a lot of people are like that because unfortunately in this world we're in, most people want something for nothing. So I thought that was interesting that, when he first kind of approached her, offered to advocate on her behalf, she was a little hesitant and a little reluctant.
I'll fight for him if he needed whatever you need. I'm there for you, just because of how he is for me. So I'm wholeheartedly appreciative for him.
Finish this sentence for me. Fenia Dukes is.
Oh man, I feel like out of everything you asked me, that just put me on the spot. Fenia Dukes is determined. Fenia Dukes, I now realize, is strong. I can't say that this has been a little bit of character building for me too, even though the circumstances are what it is. But I have seen myself really just taking some stuff that I just never thought I would be able to take. I never thought I was just strong to do. I never thought that my mind could even fathom,
If there's any message you have for Tiffany Henyard to Andrew Holmes, what would it be?
So for Andrew, honestly, I feel like there's nothing else. It's not going to change. I just need you to tell the truth. That's all for Andrew. Like, I don't know what was going on in your mind. I don't know, if that's something that you just do. But at this point, you're out there now. You're caught. Like, this is what it is. So like, you can save yourself time, or just come out and say what's happening. So that's that. But for Tiffany, I do want her to know that, again, like I said, I loved you, G. And she know what I mean when I say talk like that. But I did. And I looked up to her. I really actually believed in her wholeheartedly. Like, from what I was seeing and assisting her, even though she was tough on me, but she also gave me opportunities and I was able to go places where I never thought I would be able to go and meet the people that I'd be able to meet. And I was appreciative of that, and I just want her to know that you heard me.
All right, we're gonna jump out of that video right there, but it was a very interesting interview. I think the big takeaways are her story is consistent with everything that she has said since the inception of this. Is consistent with things that Officer Miles have said, that he's on the record for. Is consistent with the audio recording that we've heard, even though we can't officially say that is Andrew Holmes on the audio because it hasn't been authenticated and chain of custody alteration issues, but may not be admissible. But what we heard sound consistent with what was said, what has been said, what is in the civil complaint. I think she has an outstanding civil case. I think she's a strong likelihood she's going to win her civil case. I think the reason that she's going to win that civil case is because it's a much lower burden. She only has to have a preponderance of evidence. If it's 12 jurors, she only has to prove to 7 of them that the wrongful termination for reporting the alleged crime actually occurred. And I think that she can convince 7 out of 12 people that in fact did happen. She'll be getting she'll be getting some pay. She made $138,000 a year. So you're going to talk about the lost wages, time off, what she would earn, accrue in sick and annual leave, what they would have contributed to her retirement accounts, the interest that the market made on the money that should have been in her retirement account that they didn't contribute. They're going to have any time off awards, bonuses. Now, so you'll get actual losses, a dollar amount of which she actually lost from her employment, how long she's been out of work, and all of those things. Plus, there's probably going to be some type of punitive damages. I'm not sure in Illinois what the punitive damage is. Some states have unlimited punitive damages. Some states cap punitive damages at 3 times the actual damages. So if the actual damage is $100,000, max you can get is $300,000. Some states have a cap, but the jury isn't aware of the cap. So the jury could award, hey, we're going to award $200,000 in actual losses, actual damages, and we're going to award $3 million in punitive damages. And then the judge will just say, okay, well, we got a max, and our max is whatever, $250,000, $300,000. But I think she's going to fare very well in the civil lawsuit. The criminal case is just, I would be shocked if it even came into fruition. I don't think it's going to come into fruition because it's just too many variables. The fact that we asked this many questions, let's just think about it this way. The fact that we asked this many questions, even though I think a lot of those questions could be overcome based on her testimonies and consistent with how victims of these type of offenses act, the fact that we had that much questions, the more questions you have, the more of doubt there is. So I just don't think that Vegas is going to take an out-of-state case with no scientific evidence, with an audio recording that's going to be inadmissible. It's just, I'd be shocked if it happened. If it happened, cool. Hey, love to see how it play out. But I think she's going to get her justice in a monetary civil form but I don't think Holmes is going to do any time or anything like that. She did mention another lawsuit she had. It was the unlawful dissemination of intimate images of her. That's probably going to be successful. You just have the officer's testimony that he did, in fact, see those images. From what I see in the statute, it doesn't have any public nature. Some states, they'll call a crime like that something like, they have a crime, intimate photos is one thing, but some states have what's called public disclosure of private facts. And this state doesn't have that public language in this statute, which is good because typically disclosing information to one person wouldn't count as a public disclosure, but they don't have that public language because it was carved out of that statute. So they wanted to get rid of all the internet, the kids distributing photos. They wanted to make an offense for that. So they took the public aspect out of it. And it looked like that can be satisfied by just disseminating an intimate image to one person without their consent and or knowledge. So I think she's going to be successful in that regard. Let me see. Let me get these last few comments. She was probably pissed. I think she's going to be pissed at anything that holds her in a bad light, which is everything. That's crazy to be pissed at everything that holds you in a bad light, and that's everything. But that's what it is. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hey, don't be mad at me. I'm just calling it like it is. I'm telling y'all what I see, my take on things. Tomorrow we might go through the actual lawsuit that was filed against the trustees. Another one that's kind of ridiculous. I'm assuming it was filed by Max Solomon, our favorite attorney practitioner at law. So we'll probably dive into that tomorrow. As always, I appreciate all of y'all for tuning in. I'm very grateful, humble. A round of applause to you for allowing me to. Y'all entertaining me, and hopefully I'm providing some entertainment to y'all. Y'all take care. Be blessed. Have a good night. Peace.